Hi everyone, welcome to our latest week together where we're going to put together all the components of your thesis that you've written so far and talk about completing the first draft of this thing because this is coming up really fast and we have to be on top of every assignment and turn everything in on time. Though I know this is the crazy busy part of the semester, at least it starts to feel that way. So I wanted to start off by saying I know that you have a lot going on, but I'm available always to help you put these pieces together. Come by my office hours or make an appointment with me, but keep in mind your final draft is due 2 Fridays from now, so we really need to get serious about getting you there. So that's what today's lecture is going to be about, and I wanted to show you some updates to the calendar, or at least show you where we are right now. Okay, so we're here in week 9. Ideally, you have submitted your committee member names and your methods section and first argument paper. And then we'll have some independent work next week. So we won't meet in class, but I really strongly encourage you to come and talk to me. This is where you're going to be writing the second part of your analysis and incorporating an introduction and conclusion into your thesis. Because your first draft is going to be due Friday toward the end of this month, and we will meet again on that day, I want you to come ready to talk about the actual thesis defense and then presenting your work as part of the research symposium and beyond this class in your professional lives. The following week, week 12, will be independent work and meetings again, where you'll be editing and revising your first draft. Then final drafts will be due in week 13. You'll submit your final draft to your committee that Sunday evening, and we'll review it over week 14. We'll be scheduling your defenses for week 15 during week 14 at the latest. And then once you have successfully passed your defense, which is most likely as long as you're on top of everything, then we'll move into your corrections piece where you put the final touches on your thesis and turn everything in. All right? A lot going on in this last month together or so. So let's talk about putting all the pieces together. All right. So I alluded to this already, but coming down the pike, I'm going to give you feedback for your Analysis 1 essay as soon as I can. And I encourage you to look at those edits first before you start on the second part of your analysis, because the feedback I give you on your first argument might help you write the second argument. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to revise your literature review with the comments that I gave you a few weeks ago. Think about if there are pieces of your lit review that might fit better in your introduction, that might help you explain the cases you're examining in your analysis. And then you want to focus on, once you have completed your analysis section and kind of revisited everything for another pass, then you want to be sure to write your introduction and conclusion. These come last because you don't know how to introduce your work or finish it until you've actually completed it. All right? So like I said, we won't be meeting in class next week, but I do want to draw your attention to the thesis template. This is where you're eventually going to move all of your work. I'll show you where that lives on Canvas quickly. If you navigate to our modules page and you scroll down to week 11, thesis first draft due, thesis template used to format. All right, this is the university distributed and sanctioned thesis template. This is what you want to use to write your work. So you're going to download this file and save it to your computer and start to fill in all the blanks. So the title of your thesis, your full name, Brenau University. Let's see. If you have questions about any of this, let me know. All right, you'll have an abstract on the first page. You'll follow that with a signature page, I believe. A dedication, this page is optional. Acknowledgements page, also optional. Table of contents, you've seen this before, so change it and adjust it to fit your project. A list of tables, I don't think you all will have that, so you can just delete that page. Same with list of figures, and here we go. Chapter 1, your introduction. This is where it all begins. So when you complete your first draft, you will put all the pieces into this thesis template. All right. Revise everything that I have asked you to revise first before moving on to the introduction and conclusion. I'll repeat that one more time. All right. Reach out to me with any questions about that. All right. So, display settings, bear with me. All right. Let's just look at this way. Okay, I haven't had a chance to really give you global feedback on your lit review paper, so I wanted to say that everybody did a great job bringing information together and explaining what your references have to say about your topic. So y'all are in a really good place to move to your argument section. Make sure to read all of my comments and attend to all of my corrections. Don't fear the red. I'm giving you lots of feedback and corrections now so that you can have a smoother final product. And just keep in mind that if you lost some points on this assignment, it's either because the thesis and preview wasn't complete or obvious enough, or the information and support was lacking. I needed to know a little bit more to understand your artifact or your article. And finally, you might have had a lot of errors in your work. So poor proofreading, you didn't go back over your paper one more time with a fine-tooth comb. It's hard work to do that, but it's definitely worth your while. Oh, yes, this is what I want. Okay, fantastic. So let's talk about completing your method and analysis section. You have a large chunk of it done already. You have written your method section and started or perhaps completed the first part of your argument. Now I'm looking for you to write the second part of your argument, the second part of your paper or your thesis that's going to prove your overarching claim. All right? So your first step, thinking about writing your final thesis draft, your complete draft 1 of your thesis, is to first update your methods section as needed. Maybe between submitting your draft today submitting your first argument draft and submitting your first draft of the thesis, you find new methods or you find another framework that you want to apply to your artifacts. If that's the case, then make sure that you update your methods section as well. That can help make it a little bit longer too. Or maybe you have all the theories and frames that you need, so you don't need to add anything, and that's great too. Your second step for completing your method and analysis section is, this is really more of a reminder for you, but you're advancing one overarching claim. So let's say I have the claim for my thesis. In this speech, President Clinton soothes the nation after the Oklahoma City bombing. All right, so I'm arguing that this speech, this mass media artifact, had a role of soothing the nation that was reeling from a terrorist attack, okay? And my argument is, more specifically, my two sub-arguments to prove this overarching claim are that he appealed or soothed through pathos appeals or emotion and through telling a narrative of how to live after tragedy. All right, this is more of a rhetorical analysis, but let me show you how this would be organized. So through a lens of neo-Aristotelian analysis, I will show how Clinton soothes the nation after the Oklahoma City bombing through pathos appeals. So this is the first of my two main arguments to prove my overarching claim. All right, so I make a big claim about pathos appeals, so I'm going to say, what are pathos appeals? I'm going to say, what are the pathos appeals in this speech? What are the pathos appeals doing potentially for Clinton's audience, right? That'll make up my first main argument. Now, I want to strengthen my claims or strengthen my support for my overarching claim that Clinton soothes the nation through his speech. So I'm going to present a second major argument, just like you will. Second, through narrative theory, that's my framework, I'll explain how Clinton soothes through a narrative for how to live after tragedy. So I would talk about how narrative or stories about our lives helps us deal with tragedy. And then I would look specifically at Clinton's language, the story that he told, and I would unpack that for my reader, again, to support my overarching claim that Clinton soothes the nation through his speech. All right, so I'm going to be looking for your analysis section to include an overarching claim, an overarching argument you're making for the whole thesis, and then at least two main arguments, sort of like I've presented here, that make up your analysis or your argument. Now, some of you might have a third main argument where you provide a main argument and then defend it or explain it through evidence. But some of you may only have two, and that's fine. Each project is going to look a little different. All right, so moving on, let's talk about putting together the final thesis draft. We're already here, if you can believe it, but you don't have to do this just yet. You have a couple of weeks, but so you know what's going on. We're aiming to fall between 30 and 40 pages. Now, I've X'd out these three categories because you've already started your lit review, you've already started your methodology, and you've already started your analysis. So what's left to do is to complete those and then write an introduction and a conclusion, and of course include a references page citing all of the references in alphabetical order that you used in your project. All right, and you're plugging all of these sections into a thesis template on Canvas. Download the thesis template, put your pretty much final literature review in there, put your method section in there, put your analysis in there. So you're breaking it up into sections. So let's talk about writing your introduction, because you're going to have to do this very soon. You're aiming for a minimum of 1 page, ideally closer to 3 pages, where you're laying out and introducing us to your project for the very first time. All right. The introduction has 3 major purposes. The first of which is to generate interest in your project. You want to lay out the problem or the question that you're asking. Why is it worth examining this artifact and these theories to better understand them? All right. So let me go back to generating interest though. The introduction is meant to draw your readers in and set the impression of the paper. You want to prepare the reader for what's to come in the paper and make them want to read your paper. All right. What are some ways that you can do this? Well, you can start out by beginning with a hook. All right. Some kind of interesting story related to your artifact. Some narrative of an event or issue. In 2019, Serena Williams wore a provocative outfit for a tennis match. And within a few days, newspapers and radio shows were talking about it constantly. And these particular things happened. This is an example of how women in sport are sexualized or judged on their appearance rather than their athletic ability, right? That would be a nice way to grab our interest and keep us wanting to read more. So then your job is to state the problem, all right? Let us know what are you actually digging into and why should we look into it? What does it mean? How does it affect society? Why is it important to spend time learning more about this? All right, this is a good place to begin to explain the gap in the literature. What's missing? What's left to be said or uncovered about the phenomena that you're studying? All right, you've explained this a little bit already in your abstract research symposium proposal your proposal for the larger project. So where